Coach Randall, what's going on, man? I appreciate you jumping on the pod.
Mason, I really appreciate you having me.
So you're in the North Carolina area. I'm in Greenville, so we're not too far away. How far is Pineville from Charlotte?
It's right there. I mean, it's basically a suburb of Charlotte. We are, 5 minutes away from at the actual city. So we're kind of on the border of, we're on the border of Fort Mill too. So we're right there, off 77.
How'd you get such a good location?
I got lucky. A couple of guys before me had used the space, and the guy before me ended up moving to California, and so the owner of the gym approached me, and basically what I do is I sublease the basketball portion, and so I handle all the basketball stuff for the gym.
So tell me more. You sublease the You have your own
Yeah.
basketball.
So we have a facility, and through our facility we have a baseball department, basketball department, and a speed and agility department. And so basically, for the space that I use, I rent out the space that I use, but I'm the director. I oversee it, so I'm in charge of the basketball portion of that 24/7.
Got it. So you have a baseball and a basketball and one more sport, but the name of your company is O Basketball,
Yeah,
right?
outwork everyone basketball. Yeah, we just celebrated our eight-year anniversary last month.
Man, congrats to that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
So, okay, you have Outwork Everyone Basketball. You run that. You are the owner of Outwork Everyone Basketball, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But you rent the facility out to other basketball entities?
I do. So what I do is when I'm not using the court, I do rent it out to other coaches or teams, or just sometimes it's just players that want to get some work in and they want to rent out the space. So when I'm not using it, in order to lower my overhead a little bit, I do rent it out.
So take me back, and how long have you been in the facility?
So this is, I think, in January it'll be year 4 of me actually being in this space.
Okay, take me back 4 years ago when this owner approached you or you approached him or her, the other tenant moved to California. What was that process like? What was that first conversation like with the owner?
When he called, I was kind of shocked because I had been late to the party before the previous guy took over. And so, when he asked me if I wanted it, I thought about it and I said yes. And at that point, it was how can I lower my overhead? And so one of my buddies also trains. And so we basically at the beginning, we would, whenever we needed, we took first priority, and then we would rent it out to other people, but we would split the cost at the end of the month. So whatever our rent was after other people, leased it out from us, we would just split that cost in order to lower my overhead. And just gradually over the first year and a half, it kind of happened that he didn't need it as much as I did, and I needed a lot more. So he kind of just phased himself out.
Understood. And I'm imagining in Charlotte or near Charlotte, even down here in Greenville, in a market that's not as I shouldn't say thriving, but it's a different market for sure.
Yeah.
And anything from $6 to $7 per square foot, plus the triple net fees. Like, were you fearful? Were you hesitant when it came to paying that overhead, that
I
monthly?
think I think it gets fearful just based on when you get to your slow times. I think that's the most important, is like preparing for the end season of, all right, these kids are not really going to be around November, December, January, and most of February. So how do you logistically still make this space work? Because at the end of the day, the rent still has to be paid. The bills still due. And so I think the first 2 years, that was kind of tricky for me. But I've kind of, just stuck with what I've done and grown it that way. And it's not as big of a hassle when the kids go in season anymore.
Man, that's super impressive. I'm happy for you too. And I guess I'm curious to know, are the ceilings? It didn't look like it when I saw on IG. Are the ceilings high enough to have volleyball in that facility?
Yeah, the ceilings would be high enough to have volleyball. It's just the spacing of it. I thought about that. I could put volleyball posts in it, but it would probably become more of a hassle because you could probably only put one net up there. And I think, on that, sometimes you want two nets when you go vertically, I guess you would say, or side to side.
Right. I got you on that.
Yeah.
And so, if you mind me asking, like, what are you? I'm sure it increased over the 4 years. Your the landlord was like, we're
Yeah.
not.
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, it goes up a little bit every year. Right now I'm like close to 2,600 a month. So
Wow,
yeah.
man. And your space is it 3/4 court of half court?
Yeah, it's probably three-quarters court. We got two baskets, so I have two hoops, but it's not a full court. I put down college lines because I have a lot of college and European guys that come back in the summer. So I taped them down, so it kind of cuts off some of the floor, but we make it work for sure.
And did you have sport court and everything already set
Yeah.
there? Do any
Yeah, yeah,
building?
yeah. Luckily, what happened was we ended up moving out of a different facility right before I took over, and so we had just taken the sport court up and put it in this new facility with the baskets. So everything was set up when I got there.
Man, you got a great rate from what I'm hearing, and
Yeah.
obviously the market may be different, but that's awesome. And what was that process like? Were you just prospecting on LoopNet and trying to find different spots, or?
It was actually I have found the spot during COVID. Everything during COVID. I'm sure you were outside just like I was, and I was outside and doing this, doing my workouts outside. And one of my buddies told me like, "Hey, there's still a facility that's open," and so I went in there, looked at it, and so I was actually a renter at first, and it was crazy because I have a lot of clients, and so when I did the math on some at the end of the month, sometimes like I'm like, dude, I'm paying this dude's rent, and everything he makes is just on top of it because I was just using the gym so much. So it
Right.
was good once I got to take the space over. Kind of was able to work that out and justify it, and it helps my kids if I have kids that need to go at 6 a.m. before school or they need to go at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Like the ability to be able to go in there without having to talk to anybody, it's kind of priceless.
What are some of the other perks? Obviously, like I'm sure you have run into gyms that have their own programming, youth groups, and everything else that's obviously going to take priority. What are some of the other perks that you've noticed over the last 4 years having your own space?
Just the ability to get kids in the gym when you're consistent and your schedule's the same, and kids know like that they can always get in. It makes it very helpful. We're open 7 days a week. Our program we run 7 days a week. We run specific programs ran by specific trainers on Saturdays, also on Sundays. So it's not like I have to be there for every single workout. And that's super important. I think, when I was able to finally grow the business enough to where I knew that I didn't have to be there all the time, it kind of elevated us because now when I'm there, I'm fresh. It's not like I get burnt out. And I think that's really important when you look at this line of work.
Absolutely. So, how many? If you say, let's say you have 4 sessions per day,
Yeah,
7 days, 28 sessions. How many of those sessions are you actually leading or attending?
maybe half. So like Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, I'm not there at all. I'm still working, but like one of the schools I'm able to train their kids in on Saturdays. So I just go there on Saturday mornings and have somebody else run our programs. On Sundays, we run a train and play program in the evenings and then regular workouts in the middle of the day. So it just depends on which one, I need to be at and then I'll send somebody else to the other one. So probably, I'd say half would be a fair number.
What's your background before the training or during the training? What was
Man,
that
man,
work?
I tell people all the time I lucked into this. Uh, back in 2009, I was working at a big facility here, and the owner came to me and was like, "Hey, we have this kid that wants to train with you," and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Personal training at a gym." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, they have basketball trainers," and I was like, "There's no way somebody pays for that." Because I grew up where we went to the Y after we got out of school and we just played. That's how we got better. That's how we learned new moves. So when I moved to Charlotte, I was not ready for this at all. And so he showed me what I could make training. And being a kid at 22 that was fresh out of college, I was like, yeah, man, sign me up. So that's really how I lucked into it, and added some clients there, and then ended up moving to another company that was super successful in the Charlotte area. Worked with a lot of NBA guys, and that was great. But it was just time to move on, and I was going to take a job with the Hornets, and the guy I was interviewing with ended up taking a job at the Top Golf we had just built here, and so he was like, "Hey, sorry, you got to start this whole process over." And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that because I had been like training on the side. And I said, you know what? I no need to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to start my own company. So back in 2016, Outwork Everyone Basketball was born.
Wow. And you said you worked at a facility, so you were what kind of? I know you've been doing basketball work, you've been training on the side, but like, what was your employment? You were just fresh out of
So,
college.
so I was fresh out of college. So because of basketball, I never got to work at a shoe store. So literally, I got a job at Finish Line fresh out of college because I wanted to work in that industry. And then I worked at a gym here. And I was just at the beginning, I was just doing like group training and boot camps they had. I would be a part of those, getting kids ready. And then as a couple, as the kids got to know me, then kids wanted to do private lessons with me. So I had like 4 or 5 kids at the beginning doing one-on-ones with me. And then I was like the night gym manager. So when we would get done with our groups in the evening, I would run the gym if guys wanted to come in for open gym from like 9 to 11. So, that's how I kind of first got started. But those days were long. You were looking at, I'd get my first job at 10, get off, and then be on the court from like 4 to 11. So
Grinding, outworking everyone, right?
yeah, yeah, yes, sir.
What is so? I want to talk about Facebook ads. We get there, but it kind of working our way back. So 4 years ago, did you need to take any outside funding, capital loan to get this stuff going, or did you bootstrap all this?
So when I first started, uh, I did. When I first started, one of my guys, his dad was a private equity guy, and I got a small loan from him just to get started and make sure. Like I bought a Vertimax and had equipment that I felt like was important to me. And I was supposed to pay him back over like 3 years. I made sure he got paid back in the first 18 months. Like that's just how I am as a business person. I wanted to make sure I took care of that. But outside of that, I have not had to take any funding. Everything we've done has just been, boots to the ground.
That's impressive, man. And just, I've been talking to others recently, and this may not be your experience, but for the most part, if you've been in this industry long enough, you see people fade, you see people not outlast,
Yeah,
and whether that's because they just got tired or they want to make more money,
man.
because there is a cap in this industry. It feels in terms of the income you want to make, but it depends on relatively how much money you want to make. Tell me about some of the hardest times in the last 4 years where you wanted. Should I even keep doing this? Should I stop?
Well, it's funny because like I put my head in the ground and I just get to work. And I'd probably say about 2 months ago, I looked up and I looked at the guys who like were around when I started, and there's not a lot of them still around right now. And it's just interesting that you said that because that's kind of how I feel. But for me, there was never really a time where I thought like I need to go do something else. Uh, I've been creative in how I've structured the company, and really over the last year, I finally got it to the spot that I wanted it to be in, to where it's membership based. You have X amount of time to participate. We do everything. We try to do everything on a 3, 6, 12 month plan, just to really show players like this is how you're going to get the maximum results. And I think that was the hardest part because at the beginning, I had several different gyms that I was using. So it was hard to say, hey, I need you to sign up for a month because at other gyms, I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then, of course, COVID hits. And during COVID, it was just like, listen, I'm just going to do as much as I can when I can to try to make as much as I can. And then coming out of COVID and really just learning, all right, these are the time slots and renting the gym out to other people. And that thing, that part of it was kind of a struggle. So now, over the last 18 months to really get into a situation where it's like, okay, these are the times that we're working out. these are the groups we're working out. If we need to have private workouts, this is when we're having privates. That part of it's been super beneficial probably over the last year.
It makes a huge difference to have that reoccurring revenue, I'm sure, and knowing you have left turn in those 3, 6, 12 month increments there. What is the price range that you charge? What's the lowest that you would charge for a membership and the highest that you would charge?
So we do have we start at a young age. Like we have a 5 to 8 year old program, and they just go 1 day a week, and that's 135 for the month. And then on the other group side, we have our middle school and high school, and if they go 2 days a week, it's 270 for a month. So that's where when you talk about group workouts, that's where you're in between, those two price points.
And you have what capacity for those?
I'm not big on trying to get a bunch of kids in the gym at the same time. I want group workouts to still feel personalized to where you can still be coached and you still get like people care about you and you're not just a number. So I try to have a max of one trainer per 6 kids. Not that it always happens, but normally when it doesn't happen, I'm the one that's running the workout. So if it is 8 kids in the workout, like I've been doing this long enough to where I can still manage 8 kids and you still feel like I got a lot of work, I got better, and he actually cared about what we were doing.
Right. I mean, honestly, that really does sound like a good, especially in the Charlotte market. That's a great ratio. And for you, I'm curious to know uh, for your space, like what could you have it? What could
Oh, now listen, we have some camps. We try to do at least a camp or clinic a month, and our target is normally 30 kids, and it's sometimes where we go over, and we've had 34 kids in the gym for 4 hours, and it really just becomes logistics. How are you going to space them out? We have turf in the gym, so sometimes I'll take a group to the turf. We'll have one group doing ball handling and have another group going to the basket, and we'll rotate every 6 to 8 minutes. We'll do speed stuff, footwork stuff, and just space them out to where they're not right on top of each other, and you don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's way too many kids in this little bit of space.
absolutely? And what have you thought about before I ask this question? What range would you see? I guess let's say your busiest time, and then your lowest time. Whenever kids are doing rec league, church, their
Well,
season. What does that
Well,
churn look
the
like?
the,
What's the
the
highest and
summer
lowest?
the summers are crazy for us because we have professionals, we have a ton of college kids playing still, and then you still have your high school, middle school, and young kids that want to get in. So when you look at our summers, it's like, all right, we got to get all these kids in, and college and pro guys, they like to go every day. So you got to get them in. You still got your groups, and then you got your privates, but then I'll have 1 to 2 summer camps per month too. So then you got to balance that out. So summertime is always hard. I know a lot of people hate to see the summer come to an end, but I tell people all the time, once I get to August, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to send pros back to their teams. I'm ready to send college kids back to their schools, and I'm ready for these high school and middle schools to get back in school so I can have my mornings back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. Like, that's my next question about how you maximize those times outside of summer. But before I do that, what membership would you say total members, scholastic athletes? What is the highest membership you would say you have on a monthly basis in terms of those who are recurring members?
I'd say the high school kids. The high school kids they're probably the most consistent because at that point you know what you really want and you know what you're trying to accomplish. So with them, there's not a big drop off. Even when they get in season, we have an in season program that we run on Sundays to where we're focused on shooting, ball handling, and injury prevention. And so when we get to that point of year, they just shift from a 2 day a week program to just coming on Sundays, but they're still getting their work in.
Got it. And what would you say, like, if you were operating? I don't think anybody wants to do this. I would think 85% max of the max is ideal. But what is the max capacity for you? You're saying, hey, we can have 100 athletes on recurring membership, or we can have 50 athletes on recurring
Yeah.
membership. What's that number for you?
Uh, it's probably around 70,
That sounds.
just based on if we do groups, from 4 to 8 most of the time, and
Uh,
and we'll do the max. Like I said, I like to have one coach per 6. So if we have a group that is 12 kids, we'll just make sure we have two trainers on the floor to where they can, we can split them up into groups. They can get their work in, and we get to it.
How reliable have your trainers been? Have you been able to trust that they say they show up, they're going to show up, or they have a consistent schedule? How has that been managing and having teammates?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I finally, I've over the years, you learn what you like, what you don't like. It's never really been a situation where it's just been somebody that's completely unreliable. You just got to make sure, they got reliable transportation. They kind of know what their schedule is. For instance, last month was one of our trainers took a new job at a school, and his work schedule changed, and so we just kind of had to figure that out. But we were able to figure it out, and he just starts later, and we didn't have kids that wanted to work out at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so it kind of all worked out as those are the days he works, and so we start at 5 or 5:30 with him, and so it's been beneficial because he doesn't have to worry about that pressure of being leaving right from school and getting over to the gym.
Right. And I know you are eager to have a break in August after a long summer, but have you thought about filling those hours before 4 p.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., so the gym isn't just sitting vacant? Or do you kind of just use that for
Yeah.
content, for admin? What is that?
Yeah, I mean, it just we do like on Friday we have one of the private schools is out on Friday, so the parents have already told me. So we'll have days where like they're out of school. So tomorrow I'll be able to get in there earlier, and I'll probably do three workouts in the morning, and then get some admin stuff done, and then get back on the floor for our evening workouts tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, trying to find people to fill that space, that's been a challenge. And I'm kind of, if people need it, we'll definitely rent it out during that time. But we're trying to make sure we find sponsorship dollars for next year so that we can kind of take care of our overhead that way.
That pickle might get pickleball up in there.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's one thing I wouldn't be opposed to. That's a good call. Just making sure we have enough space to do it and whatnot. But yeah, I'm a big. I've talked to some other people at facilities, and that's the biggest thing I think when you're dealing in a facility, you want to figure out what is the best way for me to bring my overhead down. So lowering that overhead is definitely important.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, right? People can
Yeah,
throw
for sure,
things out.
100%.
Have yoga, you can have fitness, you can have pickleball, but it's like it takes setup. You got to manage that. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other things that go into that people don't realize. Just spit out ideas.
Exactly, exactly. So we'll see about it. I am a big fan of pickleball, and it's definitely been big in this area. Just trying to see if we can make it work.
Right. And look, I know as popular as it is, I just don't know how much pickleball brings in. Anything is better than
Yeah,
nothing. It doesn't
yeah.
make sense for your time for $10 a pop or something.
Exactly, and sometimes you just need a little downtime. So I
Right.
enjoy having my mornings to walk my kids to school and to take my dog on a walk and get all my admin stuff done before I get on the floors is super important.
That makes sense. So you've ran or you run Facebook ads. Tell me about that experience.
It's been good. I learned kind of how to run them and the importance of it. And we put a free workout flyer out, and we were able to get quite a few kids. So, I think one of the biggest things is like just continuing to grow. I'm a firm believer in if you're not getting bigger, you're getting smaller. Just like I tell my players, like if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So we're just continuing to grow and making sure we're getting the right types of kids in our programs and growing it that way.
Understood. What's your focus these days? Obviously, you might have some churn. Kids are going to play on their teams.
Yeah. So I mean, our biggest thing coming up right now, and before we got on this call, I was actually working on our Google Ads page because I'm getting ready to put out our winter league. So we're gonna have a winter league here that we'll run on Sunday afternoon. So that'll be our big thing, starting right after Thanksgiving. We'll do that, and then also we run a scoring clinic over Thanksgiving. We run an unlimited program over Christmas. So we run a lot of different programs that are very, very good for us during those down times when the kids are with their teams. But from a group standpoint, we'll the little ones become our focus, and so we'll have hopefully fill up these groups with some of our kids that aren't in middle school yet and don't have practice every day, and just try to help them get better during their travel ball season or club season.
That makes sense. So, what's one thing that you think I am missing and asking you, or you would want to share that might be helpful to those who do own or do not own a facility? Any basketball trainer.
I mean, I just think from a basketball standpoint, I think a lot of people focus on moves and getting to the basket and shooting one-legged fades and creating space, and I think those things are very, very important. But I think being able to play out of action is super important too. And that's kind of one thing that we focus on. Like, don't get me wrong, we work on creating space in the shots, we work on changing speeds, but we also work out of, all right, we're playing at a horn sets today. Let's work on dribble handoffs today. Let's work on ball screen action today. So I'm a big believer of just action based work. Like, we'll do individual skill work, but we're gonna mix in some action. Drive kick, drive drift, whatever the case may be. Fill behind. Like, we're gonna work on all that stuff because I want kids to be able to actually be able to play, so that when they get to their teams, you know coaches are telling them to do stuff and they already know what it is. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is having players that can really shoot the basketball, and that's kind of where we've separated ourselves. Is like, we're real big sticklers on shooting the basketball and being able to make shots, because I believe, like, if you can make shots, you continue to play for as long as you want to play. So that's kind of from a basketball standpoint, I would say that. For a business owner, like I said, the biggest thing is like owning my own business and having my own facility is like, I want to lower my overhead. And so if you do have your own space, thinking of ways to lower your overhead, whether it be subleasing it to somebody else or letting them rent the court when you're not using it, or like we talked about, exercise classes, pickleball, things like that. Whatever you can do to lower your overhead, I think is just super beneficial when you're dealing in this space.
Coach Randall, man, that's very helpful. I do appreciate you sharing all this too, and I know we talked about doing this a while back, so I do appreciate your patience.
Nah, man, I'm a big fan of what you do, and I listen to when you put these podcasts out. I listen to them often, and that's kind of why I wanted to be on it, because I think the good thing about this is you get coaches from all over the country, and everybody has different views and everybody has different ways that they do things. And I listen sometimes, and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's a really good idea, and I'll implement it, and then I'll think sometimes, be like, how does that work? So I think it's good because you just get to hear from so many different people, and I think that's important because there's no one way to skin a cat.
So I enjoy connecting with trainers and guys like and who, especially who are close by, and I plan to continue the conversation and stay connected with too, man. So
No, for sure, man. Anytime you want to talk to me, I'm definitely open to it. Like I said, I love what you do.
I'm gonna pull up on you, man.
All right, let me know. You can definitely do that.
Yes, sir. Take care, man.
All right, I'll talk to you.